Hey everyone, so in today's video, I am super excited because we are going to be talking about this new launch from e.l.f., the Halo Glow Liquid Filter. And I'm going to be comparing it to potentially the item that this product is trying to dupe, which is the Hollywood Flawless Filter from Charlotte Tilbury. This is a product that I've been familiar with since its launch. It is one that I am a very big fan of. So I am really excited to answer the question, is this a dupe? Now, if you aren't familiar with my channel or my take on dupes, essentially I see a dupe as a product that can replace your use of another item. So it can be essentially a duplicate item. I think that there are a lot of alternative products out there to specific items, but not necessarily a lot of dupes as far as exact color, exact formula, exact texture. I think that dupe can sometimes be an overused word, and just coming from my perspective, before I was on YouTube, I would go out and buy potential dupes and then I would get them home and I'd be like, this isn't a dupe. And that became very frustrating for me. So I really like to make sure that I'm giving you guys as much information as I possibly can on the formulas themselves, the way they perform. Having the expectation of something being an exact duplicate product, it typically just doesn't live up to that expectation, you know what I mean? I really want to give you guys as true of a look at these products as I can. So let's just jump into it. So number one, the first difference that I see between these two items is the shade range. The e.l.f. Halo Glow Liquid Filter has 8 shades, and the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter has 12. So Charlotte Tilbury definitely has a leg up on e.l.f. in that perspective. Even with a universal product, more shades are always better. You know what I mean? e.l.f. has done a really good job of kind of hitting as many undertones as they can. For example, I have the shade 2 and the shade 3. I don't have the first shade, which is unfortunate. It was out of stock when I went to order, but here is the shade 2 right here. You can see it is more of a yellow undertone, and just one shade up, the shade 3, is a completely different undertone. You can see it's way more pink, and that is what I like to see. I like to see a difference here. It is very sheer, but still, you know, undertone can affect the way makeup looks on the skin. So from the shades that I have, I do think that e.l.f. has done a good job in, you know, the swatches that I've seen online. Of course, e.l.f. retails for $11 and Charlotte Tilbury is $44. That is way less expensive, and I love that the packaging is essentially the same. It has a glass bottle, it has the doe foot applicator, it is very luxe, and it feels really nice. I like that they kept the packaging very simple. I do prefer the Charlotte Tilbury packaging just because, you know, it looks nicer, but do we, you know, at the end of the day, formula is number one. That is always my approach. I also really like that when you go onto the e.l.f. website, they talk you through the different ways that you can use this product. That is something that Charlotte Tilbury didn't do a great job of when they initially released the item. They didn't really talk about how you could use it mixed into foundation, on top of foundation. And that's why I think a lot of people were so confused by this product at first. It's so nice, by the way, to see more people getting excited by this product, because I think it means for me that the market is into multifunctional items and things that don't necessarily put themselves in a box. And when I think about those kind of products, I immediately think of the Flawless Filter. So I always get really excited by that. So let's talk about performance of these products all over the face with makeup on top. Charlotte Tilbury applies very nicely under makeup. It is a little bit of a thinner lotion texture. It spreads very evenly and very easily. You can see that it has a nice pearl to it and a touch of a filtered effect. But I think that the filter really comes from the sheer amount of pigment that it has, so that it almost works as a very sheer tinted moisturizer and a slightly pearly highlight. I don't necessarily think this is a filter as in it is blurring on the skin. I think the coverage is what gives it that filtered effect. And I will get back to that. I do think that that is important. So when you put makeup on top, you can still really see that pearl from the Charlotte Tilbury pretty easily. It looks really nice. It definitely will give you a pretty glow. Ultimately, it looks good. However, when you go and apply the e.l.f. Halo Glow Liquid Filter, it applies super similarly, though this texture I find to be slightly thicker. And not only that, I also find that this has a touch more pigment and a touch less pearl. Now it is very subtle, and I do wish that I could have compared the shade 1 from the e.l.f. Halo Glow Filter to the shade 1 from Charlotte Tilbury. Hopefully in the future I can buy that shade for you guys to compare, but it blends beautifully all over the face. It definitely offers you a pretty pearl and a glow. Looks really nice with foundation over it. And when I tried it out actually yesterday, doing half my face with the e.l.f., half with the Charlotte Tilbury, same foundation over top, I actually preferred the way that the e.l.f. looked and held up. Because the e.l.f. doesn't have quite as much pearl to it, I find that it just is a little bit more flattering as far as a primer all over the face kind of product. I mean, think about it. Pearl isn't the most forgiving product for texture, wrinkles, pores. So the less pearl, typically the better. The e.l.f. still didn't lack a really pretty radiance and luminosity. Again, it was a little bit thicker, but as a primer, that was totally fine. Right away, I can tell you that I will continue to use the e.l.f. Halo Glow as a primer, and I won't be using the Flawless filter as a primer. I think that if that is how you see yourself using this product all over the face, definitely go with the e.l.f. But let's talk about the use of the product mixed into foundation. Now, I don't have a demo to show you guys of this. I will say right off the bat, because the e.l.f. does have a slightly thicker texture, to mix it into a foundation, I found it to just be a little bit thicker and possibly a little bit more heavy. I much prefer to use this on its own as a primer rather than mixing it into a foundation. The look is really fresh and pretty when you use it as a primer. So personally, that was just my experience. And I do find that because the Flawless filter is a little bit thinner, it more readily mixes into foundation if that's how you want to use it. And lastly, we have to talk about the way that these perform as a highlight. Now, this is definitely where things got tricky for me. The Charlotte Tilbury Flawless filter is still one of, I think, the most unique highlights on the market because they are tuned in to your skin tone, not necessarily like champagne, rose gold, bronze, you know what I mean? It ends up looking insanely natural on the skin. And because the pearl is very fine, I find that it is one of the most beautiful liquid highlights that you could use on the tops of your cheekbones. But the e.l.f. Halo Glow, because it is, again, a touch less pearly and a touch more coverage, I don't think that it necessarily looks exactly the same. Because the Charlotte Tilbury is a little bit thinner, it's gonna kind of work better as a highlight, I think, as well. All of that being said, you guys, it is pretty subtle. And I think that it's safe to say, unless you are really tuned into these formulas and looking, you know, the way that I do to really make sure you're well informed, I don't know if you will notice it. You know, and that's really going to be, you know, person to person. This side of my face today, I am wearing the Charlotte Tilbury, and this side, I am wearing the Halo Glow. And, you know, on camera, not much of a difference, guys. But I do feel very comfortable saying that this is absolutely a launch from e.l.f. that I would recommend. I think it is absolutely gorgeous as a primer. On top of makeup, even if it is a little bit thicker than the Charlotte Tilbury, it still gives you a gorgeous, juicy, radiant look. I think that they did an incredible job with this formula. I'm consistently impressed with e.l.f.'s formulas, and this is a launch that I am very, very excited about. I did pick up the shade Tan Deep in the e.l.f. Halo Glow to potentially use as a liquid bronzer. I have only used it once for that reason, and I have tried it before with one of the deeper shades of the Hollywood Flawless filter, and I did not like how the Flawless filter performed as a liquid bronzer, and the e.l.f. showed a lot of promise. I think that makes sense, again, because it's less pearl, more pigment, a little bit more oomph as far as the formula. You have more time to blend out the e.l.f. formula, so that is also very promising, and I'm excited about that. So yeah, guys, I hope that this video was helpful to you all. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck, and I will see you in my next one.